Sunday might have been the most fun day we've had watching football so far this year. The Bills and Vikings game was off the hook. The late games were all weirdly kind of fun. I mean, like Rams, Cardinals, whatever, but the Packers, Cowboys was cool. I had a good time watching football, a profitable week from a DFS perspective. We're going to break things down, recap what went down, what it all means going forward, and get you set for week number 11 over on FanDuel. This is the Heat Check Fantasy Podcast powered by numberFire. That's right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network and numberFire.com. My name is Jim Sonis. I am a senior writer and analyst for numberFire.com, joined here as always by Brandon Gdula. He is the senior managing editor of numberFire.com. Brandon, week 10 was a lot of fun. How you doing today?
Yeah, good. I had a great time watching that Bills-Vikings game, as I'm sure everyone did. Once the Justin Jefferson catch happened, I brought in a laptop to show my wife, because even she appreciates the athleticism. She's big fan of the OBJ catch, but even she realized that was basically OBJ in traffic.
OBJ if there was a dude like on him.
Yeah. So that was cool, but then red zone double boxed in the Rams and Cardinals game with that. And I'm like,
they had the Broncos Titans game on at 1.2. And I was like, because I did not have red zone until recently. And I'm like, this is why I hated this before and was opposed to this concept. Sorry, validation. I just wanted to watch Bills and Vikings in peace.
Then you can flip over to your local, was it Fox affiliate?
I don't remember.
But come on, man, that's a bit absurd. I thought it was funny. The quality of that. Well,
the contrast quality.
There were some mistakes, I guess, in the Bills Vikings game, but the quality of entertainment of that game, and then double boxing in, Tennessee and Denver is going from some masterpiece level movie to a Neil Breen flick.
I had the Vikings.
It was just funny.
I had the Vikings money line. I'd bet it on Monday when the Allen news first broke at plus 270. And it was like, oh yeah, Josh Allen's, I think he's probably going to sit, because we talked about it Monday. He was kind of shaking his hand and stuff like that. I think he'll probably sit. And you get to Sunday morning, it's like, uh-oh, I've made a mistake. And then thought that for the next 3 hours until Josh Allen decides to fumble. And it was fun to see Josh Allen still have the highs, but also get some of chaos Josh Allen back, because I missed chaos Josh Allen, where he makes mistakes. He's still a tremendous football player and really fun to watch, but I want the down too at times, because it's fun. I want chaos Josh Allen. We got full chaos Josh Allen. We got Jonathan Taylor going bananas once again as well. So we had the Cooper Kupp injury. That's a bummer, but having Jonathan Taylor being Jonathan Taylor again, having Justin Jefferson being best player on the planet right now, having all that combined in one day was a delight.
Yeah, and I mean, this is there's some vindication here, I guess, because since when did Jonathan Taylor first get banged up? Week 3, week 2.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? I'm waiting the salary was coming down. I was like, I'm just gonna wait, and then I just kept waiting, and then I ended up playing Taylor in. I didn't play a ton of lineups. I was a bit more concentrated, but I played Taylor in every single one of them, and so that was it was worth the wait, let's say.
Yeah, I had him in 59%, which was second behind Pollard at 66%, and I was like, I got to the end of building lineups, and I was like, oh, this could be really bad.
Not enough, or because it's too much JT.
Too much. I thought it was too much, because I was tweeting about JT on Sunday morning, because what I'll do is if I feel like I didn't talk enough about a guy during our show Thursday, I'll circle back Sunday and kind of tweet about it. And I was like, there are downsides here, but I think that impacts his 50th percentile outcome more so than his 90th percentile, and that allowed me to talk myself into him from a tournament perspective because of the ceiling. But I don't think I properly accounted for the downsides of building lineups, and I got real nervous, and I was like, should I swap off? I'm glad I didn't. Yeah. But I got real uncomfy real fast once I saw I had 59%.
Yeah. So I always update the floor ceiling projections on numberFire Sunday mornings, and Taylor just became the best sort of floor ceiling boomer bust guy at running back. Which is not the only way to account for a player's range of outcomes. Like, you don't want to base it just solely off of like, if this guy doesn't have a huge game, he might not be great. But I mean, it was worth the risk for me. 95. We're going to talk about him. He's our headliner this week. I don't know how he couldn't be. That we get Jonathan Taylor back finally.
Yeah, it was fun to see him back and be in full force once again. And you know, it led to a pretty good week. So we'll talk about him. We'll talk about the other stuff to break down the slate in just 1 second. But first, a quick reminder to make sure you are subscribed to the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts. We've got NBA every weekday with Tom Vecchio, PGA, one last one before the holiday layoff coming up tomorrow. We've got UFC for the big events as well. Also did a good job breaking down USC 281 or whatever it was, one of his top value plays. Had a win in the first couple rounds. That was good for me. I didn't cash because I'm a moron, but Austin did well. So listen to him more often than I should listen to him more often there. But also, we'll have a lot of good stuff here, twice weekly NFL shows all throughout the holidays. So make sure you're subscribed to the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you like what you hear, leave us a rating and review as well. Now is the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's free bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Try out features like same-game parlays. Mr. Rose in the read. Play your way and bet on more than just the final score. Wager on everything from touchdowns to total yards to catches, all in an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Sign up today for your first no sweat first bet. Make every moment more this season with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. First online real money wager only. Refund issued is non-withdrawable free bets that expire in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. In Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. In Connecticut, 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat. In Indiana, 1-800-9-WITH-IT. In Wyoming and Kansas, 1-800-522-4700. In Kansas, ksgamblinghelp.com. In Louisiana, 1-877-770-STOP. In New York, 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. And in Tennessee, call the red line at 1-800-889-9789. So let's talk more about JT as our headliner here from week number 10. 93% snap rate for Jonathan Taylor in week number 10. 22 carries, 2 targets, 163 yards in scrimmage, and a touchdown as well. He had 2 out of 6 red zone chances in what should be a bad offense overall, but they also did have some life here with Matt Ryan as opposed to Sam Ehlinger. Passing volume funneled through Michael Pittman and Paris Campbell. Both those guys had 9 targets. Pittman did have a downfield target, number 2 for him from Matt Ryan this year, so doubling up his number there. So let's talk about JT, but then also this overall offense. Are you changing your view on the pass catchers with Ryan here, and what's your view of JT?
So one of the things that I pulled up for the philosophical change section was just how this team looked. So it makes more sense to talk about it here. Because it's such a big transition to go not only to a new coach, but just
fresh play caller,
everything, new old quarterback. But yeah, the Colts under Jeff Saturday, not as bad as I hoped or sort of anticipated. They've been playing pretty fast in terms of my adjusted pace numbers. They were still top 5 for the week in adjusted pace. So long as you're not terribly slow, like it's basically fine. And their pass rate over expectation did go from a minus 1.3% for the season to a minus 6.4%. That would rank 27th in the NFL in the full season. I'm not going to sit here and say that they'll be a pass heavy team, but they weren't the Bears, which is sort of what my fear was. Not that it would have really mattered because there's muted interest in the pass catchers to begin with, but you also want efficient passing to help a running back. 25 carries with no juice on them because you're never in the red zone only does so much. But yeah, it was sort of a better than expected output for this offense overall. And that is going to play into why I like Taylor even more. But, we have not had guys play 90+% of the snaps very often this season. That entire trend is just gone. And if we can get Jonathan Taylor playing 90+% of the snaps, that puts him back in the difference maker like tier that it's basically him and Saquon maybe that even would qualify in terms of like true absolute FOMO guys like week in, week out. So I think this was great for Taylor. This offense showed more life than I anticipated. I still don't think I'll build around Michael Pittman and Paris Campbell personally, but I saw enough from Taylor. I don't know how you couldn't, but It was phenomenal. He was efficient, better than expected. So arrow's way up on Taylor.
So name that salary. They get the Eagles next week at home. So it's a very good defense, but they're not great against the rush. Jordan Davis still kind of banged up too. So name that salary. It's a tough situation as they're big underdogs, but I think that does help them quite a bit.
Do we have a spread yet or no? Because 8.5.
They're 8.5 point dogs at home.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know if there would be one because of the Eagles playing on Monday night. Philly on a short week then. 8.5 point home underdog. That amount of snaps. What was his route rate here? Oh goodness, 76%. That's absurd. Just the 2 targets, but wow, 22 routes. 95.
95. Whew. I was at 85 because of the offense.
That's fair.
But I don't think 95 is totally off base. He's 87.
I mean, Derrick Henry was 94 this week. Like,
yeah, but I thought it was a little
in
high.
a not good offense.
Yeah,
sure.
I think if we split the difference between the two of us, I think that's probably the better way to do it. Is 9,000. So 87 is probably a little low or appropriate, right?
Yeah, I probably pulled a Jim, got a little out over my skis sometimes.
I don't blame you. He was fun. Like he got that long touchdown. I'm like screaming.
I mean, I
screamed
don't know.
a lot on Sunday because I had a lot of Dalv too, and he had that long touchdown, screaming at JT, screaming at Justin Jefferson, making one-handed catches, like a psycho. So like there was a lot of screaming, and he was part of it.
I don't know if I can do this very well on the fly because it's such a big spreadsheet, but I wonder how many games this season we've had a running back run at least 75% of the routes, because I can't imagine it's a huge list.
Oh no, I wouldn't think so at all.
That I think the route rate there, and again, 22 routes, it's not like it was this is not the most pass heavy or efficient passing offense that we get, but
so you could say even that the role was undersold this week because he only had the 2 targets, but he had the potential for a lot more. So you could say that.
So I have 5 games this season, including JT this week, where a running back has had at least a 75% route rate.
Saquon
did it once. Leonard Fournette did it once. Darrell Henderson and David Montgomery did it once, but I'm sure
Darrell Henderson.
I'm sure Montgomery did it on
13 dropbacks.
Like 10 dropbacks.
Yeah. So I think that being high on JT is fair. Still some reservations about the offense, but not going to hurt me too much for next
Don't we have
week.
reservations about Saquon's offense? Not as many as like with the Colts, but like
would you rather have Daniel Jones or Matt Ryan? I'm asking seriously because I don't know. I don't know the answer.
I think it's close enough where look, we try not to see any salaries. We know Saquon's 97 this week because he's leading the field. Now they're playing the Lions. It's not the same, but I think that $1,000 difference is worth discussing.
Saquon, but yeah, that's just because I love Saquon, not anything against JT. Let's dig into the injuries here and start things off with Cooper Kupp. He got rolled up on and hurt his ankle. He didn't return, and Sean McVay said it didn't look or sound good, which is concerning, the sound part. Kupp played into the 4th quarter, and he played 2/3 of the snaps for the full game. Main guy who benefited was Ben Skoranek, 98% snap rates, part wide receiver, part tight end, part fullback, all awesome. 96% snap rate in the first half for Skoranek. After Kupp left, the Rams threw 15 times. Target leaders there, 4 for Tyler Higbee, 3 for Van Jefferson and Kyron Williams. Jan Jefferson is better. Ben Skoranek had 2. Higbee, Van, and Skoranek will likely see target bumps, but this offense also sucks, and I don't want any piece of it. Can you talk me out of just crossing off this offense if Kupp misses time?
Yeah, so it's not been great, and it's going to get worse without Kupp on the field. This is one of those spots where I think maybe we get a little bit overzealous and say, well, Higbee's going to see a 35% target share, but that might, I mean, Higbee himself has had some efficiency concerns. Van's fun for sure. If I'm not mistaken, caught a late touchdown.
Then he ran in the tunnel.
Yeah,
I have some best ball dynasty teams with Van, and I was like, I guess I'll take it. Whatever.
Yeah, that was I was still coming down from the Vikings game, so I saw it happen, but I didn't really process it.
You didn't need to. It's fine.
So yeah, I mean, I guess the real question is how low would their salaries need to be for you to want to buy into like a volume, assuming Stafford's back? Because
I don't think Skoranek has any path to upside. I just can't see. I can't envision him. So my checklist is 85 yards or 2 touchdowns. I don't know if this offense will score 2 touchdowns, and I don't think he can get to 85 yards. Allen Robinson probably can't get to 85 yards right now. Van probably can't get to 85. Like, I don't think anyone can get to 85 unless they have like a 30-40% target share in this offense. So
that's what I'm saying is I
don't
think
even know
you
if
can
the
make the
salaries
case
can get low enough.
So like I think you can make the case that like Higbee sees like a 30 to 35% target share. We've already been playing Higbee earlier in the season, have moved away from that. So like, is he back? Like, how low does that salary have to be? I guess
55. He won't be that, but that's what it had to be.
He'd be 62.
I just think this offense sucks. Like
Skoranek, which I'm gonna have to learn how to spell that one.
Skowronek.
I've been 0 for 10 every time I've tried to type it out. 53. Allen Robinson, not 7,000 like he was a couple weeks ago, but 6,600. I think that's a bit tall. And Van, 56.
Yeah.
Like if I have because we don't know what the slate looks like yet. If I have what I feel like is the nuts lineup, but like 5,500 for receiver, I could consider just Skoranek. I mean, Skoranek had 7 targets, caught 2 of them. You expect that to be a bit better.
I don't though. Not in this offense.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I don't think they can burn me. Like, we talk about FOMO. Can they burn me for not using them? I don't think so.
Van maybe just because he's maybe talented enough, but
I don't even know. I don't think so. I think they're a cross off.
I'm not gonna like fight you on this one. I'm
yeah.
Playing a little bit of devil's advocate for the salaries being what they are.
Yeah, I mean, like the salaries are Robinson's is too high at 66. I think Higbee's is too high. Skoranek and Van I get more, but like I still can't.
They play the Saints next week. That's not going to be a
Saints money line.
Great
Leonard Fournette left Sunday with a hip injury and didn't return. It led to a 65% snap rate for Rachaad White, but White was also around half the snaps in the first half too before Fournette got banged up. White finished with 22 carries, no targets for 105 yards. He did run the most routes among backs on the team. He had 11, 5 for Lenny, 3 for Keyshawn Vaughn. So Lenny is banged up, but he's got a bye to get healthy. If Lenny misses time, how would you view Rachaad White in DFS?
Basically like a Fournette plus.
Yes. Like entering week 9-10 Fournette plus.
Yeah. Where it's not going to be flawless. This team does want to throw primarily, although their pass rate over expectation, although it seemed like they were just slinging it late in the game, they were actually below expectation in terms of pass rate. But yeah, 55% first half snap rate. And as much as this pains me to say, I don't think that they have seen enough from Keyshawn Vaughn to like put him out there. So I think it'd be pretty much arrows up for White, somewhere around like the 75 to 80% snap rate, maybe a little bit hollow, but probably kind of juicier than what Fournette's been getting.
I think I agree with that as well. Like the potential for it to be a bit hollow, but he's looked good. They ran a bit more on Sunday, I think, because they were actually moving the ball for once on the ground. Like they're a hideous rushing offense.
Yeah.
But like they were better on Sunday than they had been. So I would say probably 75% snap rate if there's no Lenny is fair.
Mhm.
Because we did see Keyshawn Vaughn mix in when they were trying to throw late in that game. So he might take away some routes, but like I said, White did lead in routes among the backs. So there's at least something there.
Yeah, I mean, as someone who liked Keyshawn Vaughn a lot coming out of college, if they wanted to use him, they'd have used him by now.
Correct. I'd agree with that. So I would be pretty okay with White. I think this offense is better than perception right now. They're still pretty efficient early downs. Their late down offense was really good against Seahawks, if I recall correctly, for the first time like all year. So I think that was encouraging for them. And White might have been part of why it was encouraging too, which helps as well. Khalil Herbert sustained a hip injury, was ruled out for the Bears. David Montgomery played a 66% snap rate. No other running back played a snap in this game, though they did have they had Mixon and Tristan Ebner earlier on this year. Montgomery had kept his snap rate up even when Herbert was healthy, and now Justin Fields is playing better. So if Herbert misses time, how would you view Montgomery in this offense going forward?
They get the Falcons next week, which definitely factors in because they've made Deontay Foreman look like Barry Sanders, basically.
Pretty much.
So yeah, Montgomery's another guy we've been like. I won't say that we've been considering Montgomery since Herbert really popped up, but early in the season we liked Montgomery. You all right?
My coffee lid is very dirty and it distracted me, so I was trying to clean it with my.
I thought you like spilled something all over yourself, or
no, it's like
we're having another wire issue where you're gonna go mute for like.
No, it's really dirty. I need to clean it. I'm gonna do that later though. Should I take this off? Or
you should definitely just do that. Like, clean your dishes while I'm giving my analysis.
Should I keep the lid on even though I know it's dirty, or should I take it off to drink my coffee going for the rest of the show?
If you can't manage drinking from a lidless,
I don't know if I
travel mug, I think we got bigger issues. I think you can.
This mug is really old too, by the way. Look at this. Like the paint
people
is chipping off the rim.
People are listening to this. There
are people.
I mean, some people are watching, but
yeah, just gonna. If I dribble on myself, don't judge me.
So we have been a pro David Montgomery podcast whenever the role's been there, and I think the role should be there again. One of the 5 guys to play or to run 75% of the routes in a game this year, but this week 61%. I don't expect much volume there just because this is the most run heavy offense in football. A little bit more efficient, but I honestly think that Justin Fields is taking maybe too much of the rushing.
Okay.
I think that the red zone work is a little bit like that. Fields has scored 100 times in the past 3 games.
It's 97, but I didn't want to nitpick, but yeah.
So I think it's definitely not flawless. I'm trying to think of a good comp.
It has shades of like a Ravens offense.
Yeah.
So that's not ideal.
It's like if David Montgomery were 2 of the Ravens backs, so instead of getting 2 guys with 30% of the snaps, he's getting 65 or so.
He's kind of like rookie year J.K. Dobbins, honestly, in both the good and bad sense.
Yeah.
But Montgomery has had a max of 25 adjusted opportunities so far this year. That was in week 1. Since then, he's had his max is 21. Hasn't had the best yardage upside. I still think that, though, because Fields has been playing better, because the matchup is pretty good, I think there's enough there where I'd put Montgomery's salary 75 for next week. I know it's pretty high, but I think that'd be fair given the potential role he'd have and the improvements of this offense.
All right, we'll write this one down. I was gonna say 69, but he's 62.
63. What? Oh my goodness.
So I was thinking I use this name a lot because it's just sort of one of those guys. There's a path upside, but a lot of path to downside. A classic Damian Harris, where if he's above 7,000, I'm probably not getting there. I think the J.K. Dobbins is probably about fair.
Yeah.
I think in this matchup, if there's no Herbert, he is going to be an optimizer's love next week. So.
But I think he'd be mine too. Usually when we say optimizer love, it's a low ceiling guy. He might be that, but I also don't know for sure that he is, given how good this rushing offense can be.
Yeah, I mean, Justin Fields is good at running the ball, but how good's David
No,
Montgomery?
that's true.
He's playing to expectation on his carries, average success rate. I don't know how much he's bringing to the table, like himself.
That's fair.
I think he's a borderline right down at 62.
You said 69, right?
I said I think like 60.
So if we average, we're at 72 for between the two of us. That's still 1,000. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay. Juju Smith-Schuster left Sunday's game with a concussion. Justin Watson wound up being second in snaps behind Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Just one target for him, though. Kadarius Toney had 5 targets on 15 routes, plus 2 rush attempts for 33 yards. No Mecole Hardman here. That's important to note. And also, obviously, Juju left early. So some big caveats apply, but how many ETNs for you on Toney, given that both Juju and Hardman could play next week? And again, an ETN is a measure of your level of excitement on a player from 1 to 10, with 10 ETNs being Travis Etienne like 2 weeks ago. 1 ETN being Darrell Henderson's playing stats, but I'd rather get hit by a bus than use him.
So you're way better at practice reports and following like the news, but Hardman didn't practice at all this past week. Do you think that he's like close to returning? Because I think that would be the most impactful.
He didn't seem to have a shot to play this week because he was ruled out Friday. And that to me says decent chance he sits again. Yeah. So I think there's a decent shot he sits.
So I think that Toney would benefit a lot from those rushes. He got the 2 rushes, some quirky red zone opportunities. I think the ceiling is still going to be muted for Toney as he gets acclimated to this offense, even with Juju leaving. The role itself was still fairly capped with the 23% snap rate, 19% route rate. Oh wait, that's not correct. That's his average. So the 45%. Okay, 43% of the routes. I think he's fine.
Yeah.
Is it like an Isaiah McKenzie plus, Curtis Samuel plus because the offense is way better?
Maybe. I think that he has more potential to get like downfield work than Samuel. So maybe like
I said double plus for him.
Okay, double plus. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I think that like I'd want to keep enthusiasm in check just because like they do want to rotate guys. This did happen without Juju. So and Juju should be back, I would guess, for Sunday. So I want to keep it in check. But like I would, I've got a decent level. Like if he were back in the main slate and they kept his salary at $5,500, I'd probably be about 25-ish%. Like I think that's about around where I'd be.
You asked me about the ETN level. I'd probably say 6.5 because this is one of those spots where it could morph into something
exactly
better.
There is potential there, whereas like in a worse offense, we wouldn't care. Like that's why we talk about the Chiefs backfield. Like it's an awful situation, but it's a great team, so it's worth monitoring regardless. We'll talk about them later on too. But 6.5 ETNs, I think, is where I'm at with Toney as well. Jerry Jeudy went down with a non-contact injury, was ruled out for the game. I think it was non-contact, might not have been. But Nathaniel Hackett said after the game they were hoping they had dodged a bullet, so it sounds like it's not an Achilles, which is good. The main beneficiary of the injury was Kendall Hinton, who played on 97% of the Broncos snaps. Paved the way for Cortland Sutton to get a 28% target share, which is 11 targets. 66 yards, though, which is disappointing. Melvin Gordon, second on the team with 6 targets, but also no. Can you go back to this offense at all next week under the assumption that Jeudy is out?
I mean, the only 2 guys we can consider here are Cortland Sutton and Greg Dulcich.
Correct.
Dulcich had at least 1 downfield target that I saw. He had 2 total downfield targets, which for me are at least 10 yards downfield. Sutton had 6 with an 11.6 yard ADOT.
Russ went deep 13 times, which is more deep throws than they had points.
Yeah. I mean, they've maxed out at 23 points in a game. Entering this week, 13 teams had averaged at least 23 points per game.
Seems good. They do get the Raiders next week, and the Raiders defense is bad.
But is this one of those spots where like we're continuing to buy in to like a bad investment? If a team can't, if I can't feel confident, like we talked about their implied team total being like 17 points this week.
Yeah.
You thought it was a little bit low, not like, oh, they should be at 27 or anything crazy. I was like, no, my numbers have that about right.
Yep.
Is it just the name value that would be blinding us into like thinking that we should be going here?
Well, I think it's because they actually are getting good usage. Oh, I looked at salaries for next week and it hurt. Sutton is 7,000. That's high.
That's high.
Like if he had stayed 62, I'd be like, cool. I can live with that.
Even at,
Dulcich
like,
went down to
65.
55 though. I can do Dulcich at 55. That's fine.
Yeah, I mean his workload for a tight end is really good.
I'd rather do Dulcich at 55 than Higbee at 62, despite the fact that Higbee will probably get like 5 more targets.
Yeah. We won't have Kelsey. We will have Andrews if he's back.
He should be, I think, based on. And they're facing Carolina, so I think we're going to want Andrews.
So we'll definitely want, if we're not playing Andrews, we'll want some guys with some juice. And Dulcich has that. Yeah,
Goddard's on the slate next week too, which is good because he has juice. Dulcich has juice. So Sutton's salary is pretty high, but I think you're right in saying that we should probably just like make sure we are analyzing what we've seen this year and not the name value of Cortland Sutton, Denver Broncos, Russell Wilson. It's a tough thing to do, but I think it's very necessary to like really try to ground yourself in what the data says with this team because
the sample's pretty large by now.
It's large and it's bad, for sure. Bad combo. Zach Ertz hurt his leg and was ruled out in the first half for the Cardinals. He was in a knee brace after the game. He's expected to miss multiple weeks. DeAndre Hopkins and Rondale Moore basically got every target from Colt McCoy. And did Trace McSorley throw one at all or no? I can't remember. But McSorley
I don't think he threw one.
He got in there, though. Go Penn State. There you go. Hopkins, 40% target share, which is 14 targets. Moore had a 37% share, which is 13. Rondale also had a couple downfield looks, which is fun and new. Trey McBride played 91% of the snaps, ran 29 routes, but he earned just 1 target. McBride might eventually become relevant, but how much will Ertz's absence impact your view of Rondale Moore, who had another really fun game on Sunday?
Yeah, I think he'll benefit a lot from not having Ertz because Rondale did get like the downfield work, which was very, very fun. Mm-hmm. But he's still going to see a lot of the behind the line of scrimmage stuff, more intermediate work. I think I'd have to go from look. I love Rondale Moore, and I really want him to succeed just on a personal level. Because his profile is really fun. His usage has made me not get there.
He's also fun, like aesthetically. Like he's shifty, he's fun, he's fast.
Yeah. So like I've been a bit low on him, even though the salary's been low. I think I'd probably this is one of the spots we've been off by like thousands for some guys. I think I could be off by like a good bit here. Wait.
Primer is they are facing. Oh, they're on Monday night. So hypothetically,
okay,
they're facing San Fran, but hypothetically, where do you put him?
Like 63.
I thought 65.
Okay.
Because it's like a really good target share, which means that he has a good median expectation, but it's not at the expense of true ceiling. And that's always my issue is if it's a median expectation at the expense of a true ceiling, but he at least has a path to a really good game based on his usage. So I think that's enough to be 65 if he were on the main slate. And I feel pretty good about that. How would Kyler starting impact your view of that? I'm asking because I don't know the direction.
Let's just say that I'd be fine if Colt McCoy started too.
Yeah, my numbers are showing value on Arizona plus 7.5 next week. I don't know if Kyler will play, but I kind of might bet it regardless. Like Colt McCoy he had the same NEP per dropback as Kyler last year. This is better this year than Kyler's was. I'm not saying he's better. I'm not saying that. I'm saying the offense they run, for whatever reason, is more efficient. So take what you're doing with McCoy and apply it to Kyler, and we can talk. Cliff, let's chat. Gerald Everett suffered a groin injury in the second quarter for the Chargers. They were already missing Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. Josh Palmer ran every route. DeAndre Carter ran a 98% route rate. Michael Bandy was running sprints, had him in my single game lineup. Shout out to Michael Bandy. 85% route rates, 1 target on those 34 routes. Good job. Trey McKitty, 70% route rate and 6 targets. All part of him is on IR, which is why McKitty popped up, because I don't think they want to play Trey McKitty. But where are you at with the Chargers pass catchers, with Everett now banged up as well?
Yeah, so I'm kind of glad that they're on Sunday night again. Not necessarily from a viewing standpoint, because
they're awful to watch.
And it's one of those frustrating. They're kind of
would they be more enjoyable to watch if they had a bad quarterback, because you wouldn't have any expectations or any hope? They wouldn't give you like these like flashes of like, oh, this guy's really good. Be like, nope, we're not going to use him.
Yeah, that's the tough part, because I was going to liken them to the Cardinals, not for the same reasons, but just a team that should be a lot more fun than they are.
Yes.
So
they're actually a very good comparison. I'm not going to lie. It's a very good comparison.
So I'm glad that we don't have to deal with them on the main slate. I would go to Palmer. I would play Carter. I wouldn't really trust it beyond that.
Yeah.
I just want Mike Williams and Keenan Allen back so that we can like feel good about Justin Herbert again.
And Mike Williams said that he has a shot to play next week. Looked like he went through a legit warm up before the game on Sunday, so he might be back, which would be good, but it's brutal.
Yeah, at least that would mean then for the week 12 main slate, we should get him.
Who do they play, out of curiosity? Do you know?
Arizona.
Oh gosh.
You can't script that.
I hate that. I hate it. Okay, let's stick on the Sunday night game and switch over to role changes and talk about some guys whose role changed in week 10. And this one I didn't expect to be on here, but Elijah Mitchell returned for the 49ers and played enough to be annoying for Christian McCaffrey. Snap rate is 36% for Mitchell, 64% for McCaffrey. Mitchell had 18 carries and 2 targets, 14 carries and 6 targets for McCaffrey. Mitchell also had 8 out of 17 red zone chances, whereas McCaffrey had 5. So I had thought that we'd be getting the full McCaffrey in San Francisco. This seems like a pretty obvious no, resounding no to that. So temperature check on McCaffrey after seeing this game last night.
Yeah, it's down.
Yeah.
And Mitchell, I was looking up the play-by-play to make sure that I had this right, but like Mitchell was out there when they were closing the game.
Yeah.
He
also looked good, which is annoying.
Well, we like Elijah Mitchell.
We do, but it justifies keeping McCaffrey off the field.
And
we don't want more split backfields. We like Elijah Mitchell. I'd like him to be efficient in like a 5 carry per game role.
I mean, this is one of those spots where like the 49ers should probably do things a certain way and give Christian McCaffrey a truly featured role, but they're also the 49ers, and that's not really what they seem to want to do if they can avoid it. Mitchell's been their guy when he's been healthy, which is also kind of a weird wrinkle in this, is like he'd come back from injury and like retake the role that he had. It's not like they were like it's not like they just viewed him as another guy. So now they have McCaffrey. They won't have to run McCaffrey into the ground, which is great for them as a team. Not so great. Not that we want these guys to be running into the ground. It's not quite what I mean, but
right.
I think McCaffrey might be one of those options now where the salary is going to be too high because he's a great player with a big ceiling, but
he's Eckler.
Based on, I was going to say, I think he's going to be Austin Eckler, where he can burn us and score 3 times, but he also might just not have the role that we want.
I think he's Eckler with a bit more yardage juice.
Yeah.
Because Eckler has not had that. So like a slightly better version of Eckler, which might sound like, oh yeah, 96. But like we typically think that Eckler is a bit oversalaried.
Yeah.
So I think it's a downgrade for McCaffrey, a pretty big one as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying you cross him off, but I do need a salary reduction. Maybe, well, the problem is he plays Monday. Yeah. So he's not going to get a salary reduction before next time he's on the main slate either. So it's tough. It's a definite downgrade. I would say that this would bump his salary for me. I said JT was 85. I think I could also put McCaffrey at 85 because the offense is very good, but the role is not as good as JT's.
Yeah, that's fair. And not that I'm going to look ahead to week 12 constantly, but like they'll play the Saints. So we'll get like another game of data, and then they're going to be in like a toughish matchup. And like if this is another sort of 60-40, 70, like 65-35 split, entering that Week 12 matchup against a good defense, like it's going to be really hard to get McCaffrey right.
Yeah, I'm going to be sweating it all day Sundays. I'll be underweight on him, which would be a lot of fun. Speaking of the 49ers, let's talk about their other backfield. That is in Miami. Jeff Wilson took over the lead back duties from Raheem Mostert. Wilson had 17 to 28 running back carries. He had 5 targets compared to Mostert's 4. 60% snap rate from Wilson, up from 51% last week. 3 to 12 red zone chances for Wilson, scored on 1 of his 3 rushes. So it's not fully Wilson's backfield, but he was effective. He looked good. They ran the ball well, got a lot of yardage, and I think justified the expanded role that he got. So Nate, they're not on the main slate, but name that salary for Jeff Wilson coming out of their bye based on this.
We got 11 games on the main slate. It seems like nobody we're talking about is on the main slate. So yeah, it was a better role, but I don't know substantially how much better it was. So we liked him at 65, a decent amount. On Thursday, shifted away a little bit once we got like Pollard and Taylor, but I think I'd have a hard time going above like 69. Like I start to get like, once you're at 7,000, I need to like, I gotta, it's like a switch in my head where like, no, this is like clearly at least the guy, and he's going to be the guy, but I think it's gonna be like a 60% guy. And I think I'd have to max it out at 6,900.
I would say 72 because I think that he's like what Mostert was previously, except playing better. Like he's getting more yardage.
Was Mostert really up there though? Like, wasn't he like?
So he was 65, but we thought he was undersalaried.
Yeah, I guess.
So if I take like, let's say 68 is what we thought, and then jack that up a bit because he's playing better, 72 I think is appropriate salary.
Okay, I can get behind that.
Okay. Isaiah Pacheco played 57% of the snaps for the Chiefs, easily his highest mark so far this year. Jared McKinnon still involved, but CEH got totally dusted. It was also a positive script for the Chiefs, which will seemingly be Pacheco's spot. Didn't have any targets, but he ran 14 routes. So I think this is kind of confirmation that Pacheco's the guy in a positive script and they can run. McKinnon's the passing game back. Do you need more from that to use Pacheco, or are you okay to use him if this role stays the same?
Yeah, we have a hard time with one-dimensional backs, and I think that that's what he's going to be. Whenever the team wants to throw, which is almost always, their pass rate over expectation is absurdly high. They're going to go to Jerick McKinnon. It does seem like Clyde Edwards-Helaire is more or less done receiving relevant work. Pacheco was still featured after fumbling, which is very, very telling whenever they could have went back to their first round pick, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and did not do that. I don't really see myself playing Pacheco on a main slate.
Yeah.
Like, it'd be hard to sit here and say they play the Chargers next week. Like, if that was on the main slate, that I wouldn't be interested because the matchup is so juicy against that rush defense, but I couldn't go much higher than like 6,000.
Would you rather, let's say they're both at home against the Chargers.
Okay,
would you rather Isaiah Pacheco or Devin Singletary?
I mean, both have like really muted ceilings for very different reasons. I guess Pacheco.
Me too.
But barely.
Yeah, me too. Devin Singletary scored twice on Sunday and still scored like
15.2
points. He did buck the single digits name, but only because of the second touchdown. Yeah. So congrats, Devin. Christian Watson's role got a lot better this week. He had an 85% snap share, despite being the injury tent, I think, twice during this game, still played 85% of the snaps. That's up from 25% last week, 35% in 5 straight games entering this one. 42% target share on 8 out of 19 targeted passes, but still, they were getting in the ball. The Packers, 22 dropbacks there. Watson's 8 out was 20.2. So they don't want to throw, but when they did throw on Sunday, they were going to Watson. So they play Thursday, not in the main slate, but where are we at in Christian Watson after this big game?
Look, when Aaron Rodgers finds a guy that he feels like he can trust and go to, you take note, even though this team doesn't throw a lot. I don't want to say it's like a early season Drake London situation, but it's kind of like maybe a 35 to 40% target share, which is like 8 targets from a quarterback who is okay. I would really want to. So they're another team that I was, going to talk about in philosophical changes. They were super run heavy again, and I think that their plan is when they're playing explosive offenses, they're going to do everything they can to run the ball and not have to throw it, which is very telling to me. So you got to go like you can anticipate based on a spread whether they'll be like playing from ahead or trying to like milk the clock, but
Yeah.
you then have to guess right that that's actually how the game's going to play out. It seems like a lot of complication for. I know this is going to sound because he scored 3 times, but for like what might be like a low ceiling guy without all those touchdowns.
I think the counterpoint would be, though, that they threw the ball 20 times. He still got 8 targets and still did very well on them.
Yeah.
So, like, that was them being run heavy and he was still good. So their paths to him still paying off, even when they decide to run the ball a lot. So I agree with what you're saying. I think that they're very valid points. I'm more so saying that, like, there are paths still to him having a good game, even when they decide to do that. If he maintains this role, which is a big if.
Yeah. 7 of his 8 targets were at least 10 yards downfield.
Stupid. Love it.
Okay. So we had some interest in Lazard at 67 for like game stacking purposes.
Yeah, that I did that and it hurt. Like, I had lineups of Jerry Jeudy, and I was like, I kind of wish I'd had Jeudy in these Lazard lineups, even though he got a 0. At least I would know that nothing was going to happen.
So like, where would you be main slate wise with Watson?
Lazard was 67,
which we said was on the high end of what we like.
Correct.
We like.
I would say Watson 64.
I could get behind that. I don't think
I would say Lazard 58 now, maybe 55.
If Watson were on the main slate, I think he would be like 7,000 after a 3 touchdown game.
Yeah. So I guess my hope would be then that he chills out Thursday. Doesn't do a whole lot because I think the role is actually okay. And I could go there. I just wanted the salary and expectations to come down a bit. Sticking with the Packers, Aaron Jones, 69% snap rate this week. In his past 3 fully healthy games, and talking about his adjusted opportunities, which again is carries plus 2x targets. In those past 3 fully healthy games, he said 28, 30, and 28. Those are very good numbers. He had 150 yards in scrimmage in 2 of those 3 games. So each week I will write out each player's most relevant sample. I might shift Aaron Jones's most relevant sample to be his past 3 healthy games because it does seem like he's being used more now than he was before. Do you think I'm getting ahead of myself if I decide to do that?
I think if you're going to do that, you are sort of assuming that the Packers are going to be taking like the keep away approach. In 2 of those 3 games, they had pass rate over expectations of at least minus 15 percentage points. It was minus 15.4 against the Bills, minus 23.7 against Dallas this week, which I think is a top 3 rate in terms of, run heaviness relative to expectation for the year. So I think if you sit here and say they're going to do whatever they can to keep the ball on the ground, that's a relevant sample. If you think for whatever reason that's not going to be the case, like I'm fine with Jones to begin with.
Yeah. I think for me, it's more so about his role relative to AJ Dillon because one of those games, he had 8 carries and 10 targets. So like he could either get there via carries or via targets. And I think that that's kind of encouraging.
Oh yeah. I mean, I liked Dillon or I liked Aaron Jones for like game stacking purposes. What was he 72 this week? I think.
Yeah.
If not for Jonathan Taylor and Tony Pollard there, I would have liked and Dalv. Yeah. I would have gone to Aaron Jones just because I needed to be in that range to make lineups work and not completely have evaporated ceilings for 3 true value receivers. So like I'm in on Jones. I think this is a sort of arrow up. I'm just more worried about
is he enough to justify changing my sample?
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. I think that's fair. I think that because they seem to have kind of more committed to him, I will likely wind up doing that, but I would lower expectations from what he's done in that. Like, I think that's his most relevant sample. Do I think he will continue to be what he's done in that sample? Probably not. But I think that's probably his most relevant sample from a usage perspective, at least. A lot of changes to the Steelers since we last saw them. They traded Chase Claypool. Without him for the first time, George Pickens, Deontay Johnson, and Pat Freiermuth were the only Steelers to run more than 40% of the routes. They were all above 90%. Freiermuth led with a 27% target share. Deontay 19, Pickens 15%, but also 2 carries. Got a Claypool where he was in motion, got the ball at the 2-yard line. He scored. There was also news that Najee Harris's role would scale back, and did scale back a bit in terms of the snap rate at 60%, but he still had 20 carries. He actually showed a bit of burst, which was weird, jarring. You got a downfield target. So I don't know what to think about that. What are your views of this offense entering week 11? I'm ignoring you on that question.
Yeah, the snap rate itself for Najee is concerning just because there's been talk of having him limited. I think the 20 carries was a product of this team playing from ahead, which
it's a product of Andy Dalton.
I can't fully bank on Pittsburgh playing from ahead very often. So I did not see enough here from Najee to reverse course and say like, oh no, I'm in on Najee at a low salary. A 60% snap rate is not good, especially when that comes with like legitimate multi-week talk of scaling back his role.
Yeah.
The place that I'm most interested in obviously is George Pickens. He was one of my loves this week. You love to see the red zone involvement, getting carries. That means they want the ball in his hands. But also Pat Freiermuth at tight end. Like, I'm good with it if tight end is not going to, like, if there aren't multiple tight ends who can just put a flamethrower to the slate, then I'll play Freiermuth. But I can't do Deontay Johnson anymore.
I never could, at least not for the past couple of years, I guess. Not sure if I've used him in a DFS lineup outside a single game. Maybe not even a single game, honestly.
So they play Cincinnati next week for whatever reason at 425.
That's a featured game, man. What do you mean?
But maybe that was
a weirdly tight spread. My numbers say Cincy should be favored by 5.68. I guess I'd have to adjust for the Chase injury. That one's not in there yet, but like
they are favored by 4.5.
Yeah.
So give me a salary for Pickens.
I think Pickens needs to stay at 55. I didn't wind up using him a ton this week just because I wound up going with. Oh, okay, sorry.
Not to nitpick, but just
I wound up going with like some other guys who were in that range because I like their games more. And this game is a little bit better than the one this week because the Bengals obviously are better than the Saints offensively. So I think I'd have to stay at 55. Like I kind of at some point need to see it happen. I don't know. What about you?
So I would have said 59. He's 6,000. I think that's a bit out of reach for me.
Yeah.
Within this offense because it's just not particularly good.
What about Freiermuth?
He's 54.
More interest there.
That's appealing.
Him or Dulcich at 55?
Dulcich.
I could go either way, honestly.
It's a coin flip. And Deontay's 63, which...
Nope. Talk to me when he's 43.
65.
Talk to me when he's 43, and we can have a conversation then. James Conner, did Eno Benjamin get hurt? I Twitter searched today to see if there was anything on Eno. I couldn't find a single thing, so I don't think he got hurt. But he only played one snap. James Conner, 95% snap rate, up from 72% last week. Also, 8 out of 14 red zone chances, so that's really good. But it all translated to 86 yards from scrimmage, which has been the issue with Conner all year. It's very evident he is a guy when healthy. So Arizona is not in the main slate, but where are you at with Conner right now based on everything that gets put in a blender with that?
Yeah, so I was looking up Eno Benjamin's plays. He had 4 special team snaps, including a fourth quarter
so he didn't get hurt.
Kickoff. So he probably didn't get hurt, at least not early.
Yeah.
And he played on a 3rd and 15, which is not.
He's apparently also their emergency quarterback. Because when
Oh,
Trace McSorley came in, that's one of the tweets that I found was that was like the backup after that. So
maybe that had something to do with it. But
yeah.
I mean, either way, like Connor came back to a 70+% snap rate. I kind of considered him this week early on before we had Taylor and Pollard as more like slam dunk options come Sunday morning. Again, we don't get 95% snap rates very often from guys. Of course, we need a little bit more of the yardage. So, I mean, if he stayed, I think he was 63 this week. If he stayed under 65 for that level of involvement with a real red zone role, I'd have some interest if I needed value at running back, but he's not like a write down type of option, even if he were to be on the main slate and be like 65.
Yeah. So you were talking about how Montgomery would be an optimizer love. I think that Connor will be that guy next time he's on the main slate, just because he projects for such a large share. But like I just want juice I want yardage upside, and I haven't seen that yet. Does that mean he can't get it? No, we should never assume that it's harder to project performance than volume, but it's like this offense stinks, and like that makes it tougher. So I think that if he were 63, like you were saying, I'd kind of have to use him, but I wouldn't be excited to do it, I guess.
His longest rush of this season is 17 yards.
Not surprising. Like, he's late career Le'Veon Bell at this point, which is the saddest statement.
Leonard Fournette's longest rush is still 17 yards as well.
I mean, still will probably persist for a while because he might not be getting many in the near future.
But yes, predicting like single game yards per carry rates are just, it's very, very fruitless.
Yeah.
But if we know that a guy doesn't really break long rushes, then
the FOMO's lower.
Yeah.
Deontay Foreman, he had a good role this week in a positive game script. He had a 67% snap rate, 31 carries with 1 target on 8 routes run. I think that the most encouraging thing here is that Chuba Hubbard was active. And despite that, Foreman was still pretty clearly the lead back. So I had concerns around Foreman entering that game because of Hubbard's return. I don't have those anymore. I will note that during the show today, it was announced that Baker's going to start this week for Carolina because PJ Walker is a sprained ankle. So we get Baker back for better or for worse for Carolina this week. They are at Baltimore. They were 12.5 point dogs. Not sure which direction that'll move.
10.5.
10.5. So it's moved 2 points because Baker's starting over PJ Walker. Huh. I don't disagree, but I'm surprised. How do you view about Foreman entering that game?
So yeah, Deontay Foreman. I feel so bad because I keep saying this name, but he feels like Damian Harris, where like if they're gonna play, and not even like this season Damian Harris, but I don't really have a good comp for 2021 Damian Harris for this year.
Yeah.
So like if they're playing from ahead, he's going to get carries and he's going to be a threat for red zone scores. But other than that, we can still see him be scripted out.
It's important to remember he just had like a 23-yard game last week against the Bengals when they got torched.
Yeah.
And that could happen against the Ravens as well.
So the thing is, because they played Arizona, they played Atlanta in week 8 and 10. His snap rate was
2 huge games. Yeah.
And his snap rate was 65+% in both. Whenever they were trailing in between there, 42% snap rate and just basically dust, which
and Baltimore's a little bit better than Atlanta.
Just a little bit. So I think like depending on the salary here, he might be an optimizer love in the truest sense where like, let's say 75 or so, but it's like projected for a big workload. He's going to be someone that I think is overrated based on the optimizers.
I can't get the Damian Harris comp out of my head because I think it's true. And so like I put him at like 67 because like he has a path to big upside, but like there's so many paths to downsides too. Like it's just a wide range of, which is not a bad thing. A wide range of outcomes is a good thing. But like you have to bake in the fact that it decreases the odds he hits that ceiling too.
Yeah. I was thinking like 68. He's 71.
That's not as bad as I thought it'd be though.
Yeah, I thought it'd be higher. I don't quite think I'll get there. because I think he'll get scripted out. Like that's
Yeah.
still a very real possibility. Plus too, like
he's an awesome game stack candidate though, because like if you think that game stays close, load up on Lamar and Andrews, bring it back with Foreman. Like if you think that game stays close, he's sick. But like you need to make that assumption to use him.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. In the Raiders' first game without Hunter Renfrow and first game with Darren Waller on IR, Devontae Adams, shocker, 14 targets, but Josh Jacobs had 8. That's intriguing. In the 3 games without Renfrow, Jacobs has 6, 6, and 8 targets. Matt Collins had 6. Foster Moreau had 4. I think this is actually a legit boost for Jacobs. Moreau and Hollins are value options if we like the game. What's your view of this offense with Renfrow and Waller both now on IR?
I probably need to make sure I go out of my way to be very receptive to Devontae Adams.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like we dislike Adams. It's really hard to prioritize the stud receivers on FanDuel with the workload being all but guaranteed. I think that it's going to be hard to not to take a look at Devontae unless he's like 88 plus. Morrow, I will say, did not show me enough initially when Darren Waller got hurt, but the role has improved a lot up to the 93% route rate. We kind of joked about it last year, but like when Waller was hurt last year, he had like a better role than Darren Waller. Kind of is seeing a bit of that again this year. So yeah. I'd be cool with Foster Moreau. Probably going to be hard to get to Jacobs as always, because now I have this fear of like the offense being not as ideal as they should be for what their like talent is. And so I love Jacobs' role, but I'm probably not going to view him as highly as some other guys. But what are your thoughts here on this offense?
Well, I think that the passing game work gets a bump, and that's really like maybe the stink around this offense will like scare people off, because when he was first biking, everyone was on Josh Jacobs and was like, oh, okay. And I did get around him eventually, but like it was concerning. So maybe Derek Carr getting emotional at the podium, maybe that'll push people away. They're facing the Broncos, so it's a pretty bad game. Name that salary for Josh Jacobs, because I think I'd be like 86 or so still.
I'd probably be like 84.
85. So not a value, but like appropriate, I think.
Yeah, sure. What about Devontae?
I mean, like, he's pretty sick. He's 85.
Right. Like, at what point?
I'm more likely to use Devontae, I think, than Jacobs.
Yeah.
Especially if we have Montgomery at 62, if there's no Herbert, I can actually get to a high. Although, would I want to use a high salary receiver in a game like that? Probably not.
That's kidding.
No, you're right. Issue. You're right. I concede. Okay, Cole Kmet scored twice and had 7 targets, a 47% target share. Kmet has 5 touchdowns the past 3 games. His target totals in those are 3, 6, and 7, or 2, 6, and 7. So the arrow's way up on Justin Fields, but they're still not throwing a whole lot. Chase Claypool's role also got diminished this past week, diminished from 15 routes or whatever it was his first game. I still can't get to Kmet. What about you?
Yeah, that seems like there's going to be fear because we're going to love Justin Fields anytime he's on the main slate now.
Yeah.
Against Atlanta, it's going to be,
we're
going to want to get there. But so I guess the question is, you said with Christian Watson that even when the team barely threw, he still had a really good role.
So Watson had good yardage. Kmet's yardage in those 3 games is 11, 41, and 74.
And the 74 was boosted by being I think I might have been able
wide the F open. Yeah.
I might have been able to catch that and house it before I got caught by NFL level players. That's how open he
I would have gotten caught.
I would have gotten that part. No, I absolutely would have gotten caught. Like that's not even, I probably would have dropped out of alligator arm it too, even though no one was around, just thinking I'd get. So I'm never going to be like the
So
I can
in
do what they do, guy. But
quick side tangent, in football practice, they would at the end of a practice once, they were like, "Hey, if the starting offensive lineman catch 5 consecutive passes, no conditioning for today," and I was the last one to go, I bobbled it and almost dropped it. So like I know that I'd biff it because that was a lot less pressure than this would have been. So I would have dropped it and I would have gotten caught. But I did catch that one, so maybe I could have committed it, but I can't. I think I know better than to think that I would have caught it.
yeah, point being, Cole Kmet was wide open on what gave him, I think it was a 50-yarder, basically.
Like, I would say he's not going to face Detroit every week, but he is facing Atlanta next week, so he kind of is. But still, I don't think I want to bank on that. I think it's a pretty easy jump off situation.
Yeah, so I mean, how long was that? Yeah, 50 yards. So basically,
he had 24 on non-broken plays.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, although Atlanta can break plays too, so whatever. He's 57. I don't think I'll get there. I think I need more.
What about Fields?
Oh yeah, Fields is totally fine.
About what? Give me a salary.
I mean, he should be like 9,000, right, at this point?
Probably. He's 87.
Sweet. I think that's fine. There aren't a lot of upside quarterbacks on this slate. We'll talk about that in the salary scroll. I think I'm probably going to be on a lot of Lamar this week, despite the heavy spread, just because I love the Ravens. I've decided going to be a big Ravens guy. But there aren't a ton of high upside quarterbacks. I think that helps Fields be justifiable at 87 for sure.
Yeah, Baltimore 6-3. They're it's not like a win now must win, but like they're probably gonna.
I think they're gonna wreck stuff in the second half.
Yeah,
like my 2022 only model loves them, and I'm putting a lot of faith in that. And I think they're gonna be pretty fun. So. Yeah. Okay. Situations to monitor. What else did you know when looking at usages from week number 10?
Yeah, I think it's like a role change by any means, but Dameon Pierce, 62% first half snap rate, finished with a 73% snap rate overall, which is around where he usually is, but lost out on 2-minute work to Rex Burkhead. So he's not flawless. And I did a study over the offseason based on like when to pivot. And it's basically guys in like the 7,000 range at running back who, if they're chalky, their roles are typically maybe overstated.
Especially in a bad offense.
Still love Dameon Pierce, but like bad offense can lose out key plays, key passing down work. Just want to make sure that I'm not blindly playing Dameon Pierce in bad spots. Devin Singletary, 71% snap rate, 2 scores, 15.2 FanDuel points. That's absurd.
The nickname stands, by the way. We're keeping single digits.
Yeah.
He did not bucket yet.
This likely won't change too much, but in terms of like perception, because we're already there. But TJ Hawkins's role was great again, 10 targets for a 20% share, 87% route rate, but only 45 yards. So probably not going to see a salary increase. I think that he's appealing whenever he's on the main slate. Tyler Algier, 48% of the Falcons snaps.
Don't say that name, okay? How dare you? I had the over on his rushing plus receiving on Thursday. He had negative 17 receiving yards. I can't look at that name. I'm going to scroll past it. You can go ahead.
Okay. Well, this is more of a I can ignore Cordero Patterson mention for me. Sure. Brandon Cooks did get 7 targets after sitting out.
The one thing I would say with Patterson is that it was a Thursday game after he came off IR. So I would expect his role to get better than it was Thursday, but I think it won't get better to the point where we're using him. Also, it's a revenge game for Patterson against the Bears this week. I just want to note that for the record. But anyway, go ahead.
Thank you, Jim.
You're welcome.
Brandon Cooks statistically has a revenge game coming up. Just,
but like, based on guessing.
Yeah.
Trying my hat. Yeah.
7 targets after sitting out last week. Nico Collins, though, had 10 targets and ran 7 more routes. Doesn't seem like the role's getting any better after like the squeaky wheel situation. I don't really think that there's enough there. Mike Gesicki outsnapped by Durham Smythe, 52% to 48%. And Harrison Bryant, 76% snap rate, but just 3 targets without David Njoku.
With the Gesicki one, I would say that's probably going to stick too. Like we'd seen Smythe out snapping him earlier on, but because they actually have a running back with they have a running back tandem with some juice right now with Wilson and Mostert, I think they might be more okay running the ball, and that favors Smythe over Gesicki. So I think that one's probably going to stick too. For me, the Bucs run defense is playing really well. So the Seahawks decided to use Kenneth Walker a lot in the passing game, which was fun. 8 targets, 86% snap rates. They're on bye, but I want to log in my brain that Kenneth Walker, really, really good usage and probably a guy we should be high on regardless of script or matchup. I think that was a really good bump up for him in that game. Derrick Henry's role was weirdly muted despite a positive script. 58% snap rates. He finished with 25 adjusted opportunities. That's the second straight game below 30, and he had 32 or more in 5 straight games before that. I don't know how big of a concern this is, but it's not nothing, at least for me. Any thoughts for you on Henry?
Yeah, I liked him this week as like a GPP pivot, kind of galaxy brain play.
It wasn't even galaxy brain. I think it was fair.
It was more like, Denver's more beatable on the ground, and that Denver's not going to run away with it, and therefore the game will be tight and Derrick Henry will play.
Could they have been saving him for Thursday night? They play Thursday. Although they did it last week too, so I don't think that's a good argument. Jim, idiot. Sorry.
I don't know.
I counted my own argument.
Again, you can really only ever compare him to Nick Chubb, but like I think if he's going to have more of a scaled back workload, that I'm not going to get there because he can't burn me by having tons of receiving work.
Yeah. We know what Derrick Henry does Thursday nights though. Stiff arm show coming to Green Bay on Thursday.
Well, it's almost Thanksgiving.
Oh yeah.
So,
December.
So let's just hold off.
He's not allowed to do well until December. Yeah, you're right. No, you're right. Good point.
Well, I guess we won't see him again on the main slate till after Thanksgiving Day. So
wow. Denver coming.
Then he plays Cincinnati. So Henry 250 and 3 on November 27th.
Yeah, guaranteed. The Titans also got Treylon Burks back this week. He ran a route on 28 of 37 dropbacks. Also, they dropped back 37 times. What in the world? 6 targets for Burks. Turned into just 24 yards, though, because Nick Westbrook-Akina monopolized all the yards somehow. Robert Woods is physically still there. I think on this team, if 3 guys are earning targets, I'm not going to go there. We talked about Donovan Peoples-Jones last Thursday, and he had another really good usage day with the Browns. He led the team with 9 targets, and 5 of those were deep. There was no David Njoku again, but DPJ is definitely viable on full slates, and my interest level is increasing in him, I think, as the weeks go along. Darius Slayton, another good game this week, 95 yards targets. They threw to 17 times for the game, but I'm not likely to go with this passing game very often, but if I do, I prefer Slayton by an increasingly wide margin over Wan'Dale Robinson, who I think is a fun player, but not quite there yet for DFS. The Lions' backfield remains, for me at least, unusable. Nobody played more than 41% of the snaps because Justin Jackson, the ball carrier, worked in. So it's not even a 2-man committee. It's a 3-man committee, and their best back is finally getting worked in. Even with Jamal Williams, always a threat to score twice, I don't have much interest there. Do you disagree?
No, I'm not playing. I'm not going to a 3 backfield. I'm still playing DeAndre Swift where I need him in season long, but DFS is not season long.
Nope. Thank goodness. Kyron Williams made his Rams debut. Backfield still bad. Darrell Henderson, 57% snap rate. It'd need to be 157 before I'd use him. 32 yards for him. Williams, 1 carry, 3 targets. No thanks. Let's move on to philosophical changes from this week. Talking about the Vikings first. In their 2 games with TJ Hawkinson, the Vikings have been more vertical than they were in the past. Kirk Cousins, 9.2 yards on Sunday, 10.1% last week. It was 6.3% before the Hawkinson trade. This is good for the offense, the upside of the entire offense. So name me a salary for Jefferson and Hawkinson as they face the Cowboys in a decently fun game on the main slate next week.
Jefferson, like 94.
Yeah.
No
pushback.
You said Hawkinson?
Yeah.
Like 61. Because he didn't have the yardage, so I don't think I have to get crazy and say like 65.
He is 65.
I'd use him.
I haven't seen Andrews' salary yet, but it depends on how close he is to Andrews.
True.
But 60 and Goddard too. But 65 is not bad.
No, it's not.
Jefferson is 91, probably a little bit low, honestly. Dalv, 83. So he got a pretty.
The snap rate was better.
Bump. Yeah, it was 80% something again.
That's why we liked him, even in the quote unquote bad matchup against the Bills.
It's a much better matchup this week.
Yeah.
against Dallas. So I'll probably still be there, honestly, but
Yeah.
we're not getting any discounts here by any means.
Dalvis.
Ooh, I like that. Is he from Texas? Dalvin Cook. He's from Florida. Just kidding. He went to Florida State.
Florida State.
He's from Florida. Okay. Just kidding. That's no fun. All right. Josh Allen played through his elbow injury, but the Bills were more conservative. Their early down first half pass rate was 48%. It was 66% entering this week. Allen himself ran 6 times for 84 yards. Devin Singletary, 70% snap rate. You talked about that earlier on. Targets were concentrated to Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis. Diggs had 16. Davis had 8. So it didn't benefit the running backs. It didn't hurt the receivers, at least in this specific spot. So how much does this alter your view of the Bills going forward, having seen one game of banged up Josh Allen?
It doesn't for me. Their pass rate over expectation was in line with their season average. I saw way more from Josh Allen than I expected to see.
Yeah.
So
it was pretty, I thought it was encouraging. Like, he was chaos Josh Allen, but like it seemed more like he was pushing than anything else. And that doesn't hurt it for DFS by any means if he's chaos Josh Allen. So his salary is very high next week, as is Stephon Diggs, but it makes sense. Allen, I think, is 91, 92. Diggs, 94. Gabe the Babe is 71. My gosh. Okay. That's tough. What else did you see this past week that you noted?
Gabe's killing me. I know. Talked about the Colts not being as bad as I expected, at least. Still one of the more run heavy weeks that we had in week 10, but not like Bears or Falcons level, which I think is appealing. Green Bay, as we talked about, went super run heavy. One of the 3 most rush heavy relative to expectation games of any team this season. Tampa Bay, the other Bay, also pretty run heavy, a minus 8.7%, their lowest rate of the year. Played from ahead. We're able to run the ball in the Seahawks, so not that concerned. And again, it seemed like they were still slinging it, like when trying to milk the clock. So I don't think that they're going to just be a run heavy team. Tennessee, you mentioned you're surprised at their number of dropbacks. They were more normal for Tennessee with Tannehill back, minus 4.1% pass rate over expectation. It's been minus 12% for the season. In the past 3 games, it's been minus 14, minus 36, and minus 21%. So back to normal, but probably can't use any Titan with any amount of confidence at this point.
Yeah, I'd agree with that as well. Okay, let's go to the salary scroll here for week number 11. Opening up the FanDuel main slate for week number 11. Starting off at quarterback, shout out as things stand out to you. I found what stands out to me, and it makes me quite happy. That is Lamar Jackson at 84. That is a very forgiving number.
Yeah, we got 4 guys who could rush for 100 yards.
Yeah, buddy.
I guess 5 if you include Daniel Jones, but
he's done it this year, I think.
Yeah, he has.
Yeah.
But yeah, Josh Allen 92, Jalen Hurts 88, Justin Fields 87, Lamar 84.
Just take the guy at the lowest salary.
But also, you're not going to talk me into like Russell Wilson at 6,900 with those guys and their ceilings available to us.
Do you think that Dak can hang with them? Dak's 75, and I like that game. Had 4 rush attempts this week for 6 yards, but we talked on the Thursday show about I was running a bit more in the red zone. He's not going to have the yardage, but could have rushing touchdowns. Can you get to Dak when we know there are 4 guys who can melt our faces off above him?
It's going to depend on the value available at running back, receiver, and tight end. Mm-hmm. As of now, scrolling through, he's the only guy I think I could realistically consider outside of the top 4.
Yeah.
Which I know if it doesn't feel like fun to be like,
I do think it's fun to like root for good quarterbacks though, at least.
Yeah, it's not like I guess it's more fun in theory to be like, oh yeah, here's someone at a $6,800 salary who can really torch things, but those guys don't exist.
Yeah,
at least not predictably, which we talk about all the time.
I also think this makes it a lot harder to get to Joe Burrow at 83, knowing that there are 4 guys with the rushing ability, whereas he needs to win primarily from the pocket. Yeah,
he's maxed. I mean, he had 47 rushing yards in the opener, but otherwise 3 games with 20,
when they ran
So,
100 and something plays in the
yeah,
opener. Yeah.
that's true. So yeah, I think it's going to be
I think Lamar is a write
four
down, honestly, for me.
4.5. Yeah, I mean, there's no way I'm not playing Lamar in our head to head
Yeah. At that salary.
at the
As long
salary.
as Andrews is back. If Andrews isn't back, then we can talk, but that's pretty sick. I love Lamar at that salary. Okay, running back. Shout out what you see there.
Saquon at 97
I'll pay
against
it.
the Lions.
I was trying to think in my head once I saw the matchup, like, and I thought 10K, but 97 is fair.
97's like it's like a peak Christian McCaffrey level salary, but we also now have four quarterbacks at 84 and above that could just set everything on fire if they score 40. It's not as easy just to say I'm gonna like love Saquon and play him a ton.
Yeah, that's true. Fair point.
Joe Mixon's 9,000 after the 5 touchdown game.
Yikes.
I like JT even as an underdog at 87.
That game won't be very fun, but Alvin Kamara's salary went back down to $7,500. I think that's a bit of an overreaction to a couple of bad games. He still has great stuff in his range of outcomes. I think that was probably down lower than it should have gone.
He does, but he also has the 8 or 9 carry 4 target game happen too much. So I think that he was over salaried for me this week.
Yeah, I didn't get there. I don't think I got there at all, actually.
I did.
What about Ramondre at 81 against the Jets? Off a bye. We saw him kind of pull away from Damian. Well, no, Damian is out. That's why. Yeah. But he did pull away from Damian a bit before Harris's sickness.
He did, but man, that's tough.
Yeah.
Give me Dalv instead. They're going to play similar snap rates.
3. Yeah. Okay. Scrolling down further.
I don't know when Zeke's coming back, but Tony Pollard's 8,000, which if there's no Zeke, I still think that's a fair salary.
Yeah, they said he couldn't play more than 30% of the snaps, and he played 72 on Sunday. I think it was 72. He did like 68 or something like that. Like, oops. I do think Montgomery at 62 is going to wind up being probably a focal point this week because of the quarterback salaries, assuming, again, there's no Herbert, if that happens.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, because you mentioned the Cordero Patterson thing. 6,700. Does that draw your interest? Okay.
Nope. Too high.
Because you sounded higher on him than I was. So I just wanted to ask.
Well, I wanted to make sure we didn't assume that he would keep that role, but I also think 67 is too high.
Okay. So basically no value at running back.
Except for maybe Monty.
Except Montgomery.
So, yeah.
But frankly, though, Montgomery, with what his role had been before the Herbert injury, probably not the least justifiable play that I could think of. So
yeah, I agree. Okay, moving to wide receiver again. Likely no Cooper Kupp, likely no Jamar Chase. They're both up there, but we have Diggs at 94, Jefferson 91. What else do you see here at receiver?
Love to see CeeDee Lamb above 8,100. I think it's just deserved.
Yeah.
Amon-Ra St. Brown finally got salaried up to 78, which is where he belongs.
Save me from myself.
For how good his role is.
Yeah.
Boy, so another week where there just aren't many options in the 7,000 range.
Yeah.
We have St. Brown at 78, T. Higgins 76, Terry McLaurin 73 against Houston.
I know this Rams Saints game is going to suck, but Chris Olave is back down at 69. Like, I might have to be on some Saints this week.
He almost pulled in some extra yardage, but
Dalton keeps like throwing like hospital balls. He's trying to get this guy killed. Go back to Jameis.
So Cortland Sutton is just above Olave in salary, and I kind of thinking now like Olave's old school Cortland Sutton, where like he's got to go out and do it himself at this point.
Yeah.
So that's kind of funny to see that.
It is.
But yeah,
Devontae Smith is $6,400. He has a really bad floor, but as we know, ignore the floor. Pretty obvious path, 85 yards or 2 touchdowns. I think that Devontae Smith at 64 is probably a guy I'm going to be pretty heavy on this week.
Playing indoors.
Yeah. Also, Garrett Wilson back off bye. He's 62. That's not low, but it's also not super, super high.
What about your guy Darius Slayton, 63?
Too high for that offense.
Against the Lions, though?
Yeah, too high. They might throw 17 times again.
True.
I know he did well in that, but like, I can't bank on that.
So the tight band around 6,000 is a bit rough. I guess Donovan Peoples-Jones at 59 for game stacks.
Like that.
I don't know if I'd quite get there in one-offs.
I like that, though. For his role, that's very good. Curious what Jahan Dotson's role might be tonight. They're facing Houston next week. He's 59. I could see that being okay based on the matchup specifically if he winds up playing a lot of snaps tonight.
Sure. Michael Gallup. I want to see what Michael Gallup did. 56 in a game that will like 7 targets, catch rate over expectation of -8%.
No yardage upside yet this year, which is annoying. But
3 downfield targets.
So he has a path to it at least.
Yeah, what's he averaging per game in terms of the downfield targets? 2.7. But like at a certain point, we didn't find really any value at running back. Very minimal value at receiver.
The 6,000 range was not bad. And the high 5,000 range. Yeah.
The high 6,000 range?
No, the low 6,000 range. Because Devontae Smith is 64, Wilson is 62, maybe Curtis Samuel 61, and then maybe.
Yeah, I mean,
but then like you've got DPJ at 59. I don't mind that at all. I think that's totally fine.
I guess.
I think there's more value receiver than there is at either quarterback or running back.
Oh, for sure.
Okay, cool.
But 64 even for Smith is like pushing it for if you're building around multiple stud running backs, a stud quarterback.
Well, again, if there's Monty at 62, that helps a lot.
I think Gallup would be justifiable at 56, though.
I'll probably be too high on. I'm always too high on Michael Gallup, and I always regret it, but I always do it again. So I will be there with you. We can tilt together.
Ben Skoranek, 53.
Nope. I'd rather use Matt Collins at 54. He's facing Denver, which is an awful matchup, but I'd rather use him than Ben Skoranek.
Any thoughts on Laviska Shenault?
No, I have no thoughts, and I will not share them.
Yeah, I'm not seeing a whole lot here, which is typical.
Scrolling. So, report over the bye week was that the Jets moving Elijah Moore back to slot receiver.
I was going to ask.
Were you?
Yeah.
5,000. Is that low enough or no?
It's low.
Factually correct, yes.
I don't hate it, but
realistically
to bog down a lineup.
Yeah.
Like imagine your best lineups with Jerry Jeudy this week or any number of like one bad play. Like that range of outcomes being like 2 targets for 23 yards
and being very likely.
And being
like median outcome is like 2 targets.
Like it I mean, we should love the idea of like hitting on a great value play, but that's not like these guys are down here for a reason.
Yep.
And it's not like we're just oblivious to the fact that guys can overperform, but
yeah. Okay. Let's go to tight end.
Skoranek or Elijah Moore?
I'd rather use Elijah Moore. I'm not going to use Ben Skoranek. Stop that.
I know.
I'm not doing it, so quit asking.
Okay, Mark Andrews, 77.
I know. I'm already building a Mark Andrews Lamar lineup to see if I can do it. 68. So if I have Lamar, Mark Andrews, and Montgomery with a defense in there at 34, I have 68-60 left.
For 2 running backs and 3 receivers?
Yeah.
That's
okay. Shh. Don't break my concentration. Please, quiet in the back. Dal, and let's go. So 61-67 left for receivers. If I go with that, I want to. Give me value somewhere.
It's Monday morning. I'm sure we'll find some. Well, we always find some after the Thursday show because weird things happen. But.
Yeah, that's true. Goddard is appropriately salaried at 68. Finally, with the yardage upside that he has, he should be there, and I think that is totally correct.
Yeah,
it's a bummer, but it's correct.
Like realistically, though, Hawkinson at 65, I like the process, but I don't know if I'm going to have 6,500 to.
When he's that close to Goddard and that close to Mark Andrews, yeah.
But like, I mean, obviously we can sit here and say we want to play Mark Andrews and Goddard, but it's tough.
Dalton Schultz is 59. I will like that game. Using this past week. Didn't feel bad about it. Worked out. He's had some yardage upside. I don't mind that.
Yeah, he's the name that really popped out to me.
Also 55 Foster, again, as we discussed.
Higher on Foster Moreau, but don't love that game a ton.
And we like Dulcich more than Morrow, correct?
Yeah.
In the same game. Frymuth at 54 might wind up being a necessity.
How sad is it that Kyle Pitts is 55? We glossed over him completely.
Who?
He's caught 4 of his past 15 targets.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear any name there.
Oh my gosh, he's had 2 games with more than 30 yards.
And they're just chucking it downfield to him. Like they're actually like using him downfield, but like my guy, Marcus, get it together or let's see Desmond Cook. Like so, I full respect to Marcus, but buddy.
What salary would you pay for Isaiah Likely with no Mark Andrews?
He had 5 targets. He only caught 1 in that Saints game. But we know he has yardage upside. He's got touchdown upside, great offense, great matchup. I would put him at like, if there were no Andrews, I'd say like 6,000.
Yeah, I was thinking like 59. He's 54, so we'll keep an eye on that.
Yeah, that'd be pretty sweet. I'd have a lot of him if we got him without Mark Andrews.
Again, Harrison Bryant was more involved, but you're betting against at least 2 guys who can get like 80 yards and a touchdown.
I could see defending Juwan Johnson at 51, but I just like, you're really banking on a touchdown, really banking on it because there has not been any yardage upside.
Yeah, same for Bryant.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I guess we might get Njoku back, but.
True. Yeah. As I'm scrolling, I don't see anything else really grabbing my attention down here.
No.
Oh, my guy Brevin Jordan down to 44. Sad days. He was inactive this past week. I should probably cut him from some dynasty rosters.
I think I need to get serious about like the mid-range running backs and receivers because once again, I don't know.
Find a lot in the mid-range at running back.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, like the 7,000 range.
You're talking like Pierce, Miles Sanders, Alvin Kamara, Deontay Foreman, that range.
Like I really got to look and see like if those guys can do it.
Yeah,
because that's basically what my construction was this week. It might have to be that again this week upcoming because there's a lot of duds waiting to happen in the value range of receiver.
So is that your note to future me to dig into the mid-range at running back and see what you can find there?
Mid-range at running back and take a long look at like the sub 7,000 receivers and really, really nitpick and get serious about those guys because we want to play the 4 superstar quarterbacks. We're going to want to play Mark Andrews and Dallas Goedert, but
yeah,
if I can't play Goddard and Andrews, then, or if I'm trying to, especially even if I play like the stud quarterbacks and like one of the higher salaried running backs, it gets tight quickly.
It does, which is unfortunate. I think for me, it's dig into the upside of the low and mid-range running backs. So
yeah,
can I see David Montgomery busting it open? I think he can, but I want to double check to make sure I'm not making a mistake.
Yeah.
Dig into that, dig into Kamara, see what that outlook is, dig into Pierce at 76 and see if I can really do that and live in that range. I think I can, but I need to to really dig in, to make sure that is true. We're going to come back with you on Thursday to break down the Week 11 main slate. We'll go through trends, we'll go through game stacks, player picks, and much more. If you want to get that live on the FanDuel YouTube page, we'll be live at 10 a.m. Eastern on Thursday to break down that. And we'll have it up on the numberFire Daily Fantasy podcast feed after. So get that wherever you get your podcast by searching for the numberFire Daily Fantasy podcast feed, and also watch us live on the FanDuel YouTube page, 10 a.m. Eastern on Thursday. Brandon, if people have any questions for you on Twitter, where can they find you there?
I'm on Twitter at Gdula13, GDULA13.
And I am on Twitter at Jim Sannes, JIMSANNES. You can also follow the FanDuel Podcast Network at FanDuel Podcast. Big thank you to everyone for tuning in for today. Good luck to you with your single game Monday night lineups. We'll talk to you once again Thursday to preview week number 11. This has been the Heat Check Fantasy Podcast powered by numberFire.